Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Berne podcast today. So, I've gone back in my archives, and our episode is a recording I did, video and audio, of a workshop that I put on in 2024. This is the first hour, probably the best hour, where I talk about my own story and also bring in some things like functional vision therapy, light therapy, and many other topics. So I hope you enjoy the show. Before we start, I have a few announcements to make. So I'm offering a new way to work with people. It's called a vision and nervous system reset. This is a one-on-one intensive whereby you get to improve your vision as it relates to your nervous system health, your coherence, your regulation, and your perception. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the show notes. Contact me. I'm not doing many of them, but if you're interested in a one-on-one experience with me that goes deeply into your visual patterns, your stress physiology, and more, this could be for you. In March, I'm going to be doing a group cohort. This is going to be on perception, coherence, and self-regulation. And we're going to do this over 4 weeks, and it's a small group. So if you're interested in experiencing the group process, this would be for you. And September of 2026, I'm going to be offering, it's my only personal retreat in person, and it's going to be on the coast of Central California. You can fly into San Luis Obispo. I've rented a house on the beach, and we're going to work with 8 people. So it's a small group in the area of perception, consciousness, vagus nerve reset, somatic movement, and more. So if you're interested in that, send me an email. Again, I'll put it in the show notes, and you can apply for it. But this is an advanced workshop, and it's the only one I'm doing in person this year. A couple other points. As you know, I have my membership, which is a video library of hundreds of videos I've done over the years. And I've revamped it so that we're really focusing on vision as consciousness. So we're out of the fix-it model, although I do have several videos on different eye diseases and how to improve those. I have different classes and courses in those areas. But we're moving more into perception, coherence, and regulation as vision as a global process that affects our perception. So if you're interested in the membership, I'll also put that link on there. I have my documentary, which came out July of last year. If you want to stream that, you can through the membership portal. It's a great documentary on my work with kids, autism, ADD, the use of yoke prisms, and many other things. We also have patients speaking about their experiences, some research on neuroplasticity. So I highly recommend the documentary if you haven't seen it. So I guess that's about it. We're going to roll the podcast now. You can either watch it on my YouTube channel or you can listen to it on the normal audio channels like Spotify and Apple iTunes, my website, and many other areas of platform. So enjoy the show, and here we go. So I'll share my story. When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, and my mom took me everywhere. I just couldn't read. I didn't know how to read. And we ended up in an eye doctor's office, and he gave me a nearsighted prescription, and I started to wear it. And I became really good at memorizing. That's how I got through school. And my nearsightedness got progressively worse to the point where I couldn't see the big E on the eye chart. I had very thick glasses and contacts. And when I graduated optometry school, I met a developmental optometrist. His name was Dr. Albert Shankman. So at the time I was living in Philadelphia, and he was in practice in Connecticut. So I started to go to him as a patient because he was doing this physical therapy for the eyes. And in a period of about 6 months, I completely dissolved my need for glasses and contacts, 100%. And I woke up one day and I was driving on the freeway and I forgot to put my contacts in and I could actually read the road signs. So you probably understand that when you go to an eye doctor, if you start talking about the Bates method, eye exercises, they kind of roll their eyes and go, oh, that doesn't work. And that was the indoctrination I got from the school, but yet I experienced something completely different. So I had kind of an identity crisis for a little while going, wait a minute, I just spent $150,000 on an education that I completely invalidated. So that I had to look in the mirror at that. But I came through that, and I opened up a practice. I was actually apprenticing with another holistic eye doctor. His name was Ellis Edelman, Dr. Edelman in Philadelphia. And at first I couldn't get any patients. I was trying to do this holistic eye care. And in Philadelphia, they have like, 5 eye hospitals like that were surrounding our office. And it was kind of a pretty tough PR thing to overcome. This was back like in 1986. So what I did is I went to one of the local hospitals and I talked to the physiatrist because he was dealing with people who had traumatic brain injury, car accidents, stroke, they had double vision, they couldn't walk. And the eye doctors basically wrote him off. And I pitched him and said, well, I've got this physical eye therapy I've learned. Can I come in and work with your patients? And within a period of about 3 months, everybody got better. And so he took note of that. So I got a contract at that hospital and then a few others. And so I started to slowly trickle in through word of mouth, getting patients in my practice. The other thing I did is I worked with special needs kids. These were the kids that, again, the eye doctors don't know what to do with. Cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism, minimal brain dysfunction. I could actually do visual stimulation things and they would actually improve their vision, their brain, their functioning. And so that was another way that I got patients. And so I built up a pretty nice practice and I sold it. And I moved out here. Now, how did I end up in New Mexico? Well, in 1983, when I was doing an internship, I did 2 internships. One was in San Diego, and that was a vision therapy office. There was a doctor there. His name was Dr. Bob Sannett, and he was one of my mentors. And so this was a practice where they just did holistic vision exercises. It's called vision therapy. And then the other place I worked was here in Santa Fe at the Indian Hospital. But I never thought I would come back. It never crossed my mind. So anyways, I sold my practice. I moved out here and I opened a practice in 1992 and I got busy immediately because this is a pretty holistic community. But in eye care, they don't really focus on things like acupuncture, naturopathic medicine, or herbal medicine. And I met a lady. I was writing my first book, Creating Your Personal Vision. Her name was Dr. Hazel Parcells. And Dr. Parcells, when I met her, she was 103, and she was starting a retreat center in Sapio, New Mexico, north of Las Vegas, New Mexico. So 103, but she was starting a retreat center. So I said, I want to get to know this lady. So she taught me a lot about diet, nutrition. If you want to read a good book called Live Better Longer, it was written by a guy named Dispenza. And so he was there when I was there, and that was a long time ago. And it's about her life and her methods and so on. And she also taught me about energy, healing through energy, right? I mean, we all, that's a big buzzword today. Oh, I can heal with energy. I can do Reiki or, you know, homeopathy or whatever, color therapy. Anyways, she taught me how to do that, and I took note of that. And I kept going, and so then I was working with brain injury kids, and I was working with an occupational therapist, and she said, you know, these kids all have brain trauma. You should go back to massage school and learn craniosacral therapy. So does anybody know what craniosacral? There's a biodynamic, yeah. So that's a form of body work where you're feeling the cranial rhythm of the brain. It's a very subtle feeling, just like your pulse or your heart rate. But the brain has a rhythm as well, and it pumps cerebral spinal fluid into the eyes. So like if you have glaucoma, craniosacral therapy is a really good thing to do because it brings down the eye pressure. But they don't tell you that because they want you to stay on the drugs. Anyways, I went to massage school for a few years. I got trained in this craniosacral, and it's basically you lie on a massage table and the therapist feels the head, and you want the bones in the head to be breathing and moving. If there's a restriction on one side, that cuts down on the circulation, and you know, there's a lot of other things involved with it. So I became a craniosacral therapist. Then I was very curious. I learned about acupuncture, and as we know, the liver rules the eyes in Chinese medicine. Did you know that? So liver, gallbladder, especially if you want to get better eyesight, clean up your liver, gallbladder. And bookmark that because I'm going to come back to that later, that concept of liver, gallbladder. So, you know, things progressed. My practice moved from, you know, from Louisa Street and then downtown. And I also started working at a place called the Esalen Institute in Big Sur. So I was leading month-long retreats on eyesight and vision. I would take about 20 people, and we would work every day for a month at Esalen. So I did that for about 7 years. And and then I met a Russian biophysicist named Konstantin Korotkov, and he developed this way to read the energy of the body, and you could diagnose eye problems by looking at the energy fields of the body. And if we get our PowerPoint working, I can show you some of that this afternoon. And the last thing I'll bring into it is, did you know that the colored part of the eye, called the iris, is a map of the body? Like reflexology, you can look at the bottom of the feet and they map. So the iris maps the colored part of the body, I'm sorry, the systemic and metabolic health of the body. And so when I got trained in iridology, that's the process, it gave me insight with people like with macular degeneration or glaucoma or myopia, that there might be systemic and metabolic things that are genetic tendencies or nurture points that maybe you're not addressing, and your iris gives us the blueprint. So we're not guessing, we're not looking at the internet and say, oh, well, you have this condition, you should take lutein. Well, maybe, but what's your iris saying? And working with Ellen Jensen, who was the daughter-in-law of Bernard Jensen, he was kind of the father of iridology in the US. It's a great way to see what's going on and maybe prescribe nutritional things or herbal things, but it's very specific to you based on the color of your iris. And this afternoon I'll go into that a little more. So I might look at your irises and give you some tips, especially if you're dealing with macular degeneration or myopia or glaucoma or, you know, whatever, astigmatism. There might be some things as well. So in terms of the eyes, there's a couple of principles I want to share. The first is that the eyes and the brain make up about 2% of the body weight, 2% of the body weight, and use 25% of the food intake. So 25% of what we eat goes to the eyes. And the eyes have probably the highest, if not almost the highest, metabolic need of the body. In other words, because of all the capillaries, the microcapillaries, the blood vessels in the retina, the retina needs a lot of oxygen and hydration. And there are a few people in here suffering dryness. Why? What are the causes of dryness? We'll go into that. And of course, you can do eye drops, but it's a Band-Aid. You know, you're not treating the cause. So one of the things I learned early on in my practice is when somebody has a vision problem, let's treat the cause and not the symptom. Everybody here going into a eye doctor's office, they're treating symptoms. That's basically what you're getting, and you get dependent, or you have to go back and things are worse and worse and worse. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the eyes originate from the brain. So every part of the eyeball is the brain. In fact, the eyes are the only part of the brain that sit outside the cranial vault, outside the head. But your eyeballs are brain. And they start developing in about, well, 2 weeks maybe after conception. We can see in ultrasound that as the brain is growing, the eyes are pushed out, the ears are pushed out. So the eyes are a very ancient part of us. They go way back embryologically. And they carry a lot of history. So when we are adults, if our eyes are not getting the proper nutrients, and then we start developing inflammation, and we start having stress, and we're on our digital screens all the time, it's a formula for disaster. That's why the eye doctors are so busy, because we've got so much oxidative stress in the eye area, whether it's inflammation, oxidative stress, and then when you start doing surgeries, it creates scar tissue, more inflammation. And so that's the way that they make their money, is through surgery or needles or drugs. And there you go. You know, you've got a population where your eyes just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And then on the nearsighted myopia side, because we're at screens, I read a statistic, almost 6 billion people are nearsighted. So, I mean, we're short-sighted. Our whole visual world is here. So any questions so far? Do we need a break? We're good? Can we do a little more? Okay. So there's a couple of myths that you've been told that may not be true. Myth number one is that your eyes only get worse as you get older. Okay, that's kind of a standard principle. And if that's the case, then how about in my practice? I can speak of somebody who just recently, she came to see me a few years ago as an 80-year-old, and she was scheduled for cataract surgery. But she didn't want to do the cataract surgery. So she started working with me, and over a period of 6 months, the cataracts, poof, disappeared. She didn't need surgery. On top of that, she was wearing very thick trifocal glasses. Now she's in a single vision lens that she uses just for reading. So her eyesight is getting better and better. She's 86. She's a master knitter. She wants to knit. She can see all the stitches so well. And here she is, 86, and she's going. I have a man who's 90 who's diagnosed with wet macular degeneration. And instead of doing the injections, he came to see me. He was about 85 at that point. And we did a bunch of protocols with him. And he was able to get his daylight driver's license back. Pretty impressive, right? Like, oh. So there's a term called neuroplasticity. Have you ever heard of it? So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to either regenerate or create new pathways. Well, since the eyes come from the brain, then we can access neuroplasticity, and the neuroscientists talk about this all the time. Unfortunately, the eye doctors don't, because they're not in the business to access neuroplasticity. They're in the business to treat symptoms with what they've learned, and that's the allopathic model. So neuroplasticity is available to all of us. Now, the question becomes, we have to look at our diet, our lifestyle, our mental habits, our emotional patterns, because all of those things create obstacles when the eyes are given the medicine to heal. And I'll give you a research study that you're going to, especially those of you with macular issues, you're going to like this. So there was an ophthalmologist named Glenn Jeffries. He has an institute called the Jeffrey Lab. You could Google that. And he is based in London, England, University College of London. And he's been working with a modality for many years called photobiomodulation. Another term for that is red light. And red light therapy is really getting a lot of traction because when you expose yourself to red light, it does something really positive for you. What it does is increases the energy in the cells, and it can reverse your aging process. There's an organelle, which is technical, I don't want to get too technical here, called mitochondria. You could Google mitochondria. What does mitochondria do? Well, it produces energy in the cell called ATP that helps negate inflammation and oxidative stress. Guess what? The eye has one of the highest concentrations of mitochondria, and the macula has the highest concentration of mitochondria in the retina. So the macula has dense cells called cones. There's a lot of mitochondria in there. So what is macular degeneration? Macular degeneration is we're not getting enough nutrients to the macula, so it either dries out, or if there's blood sugar issues or weak blood vessels, then it turns wet. So there's edema, fluid that builds up behind the macula. So the only way to deal with that on an allopathic level is by getting a shot of Lucentis or Avastin. Those are the drugs, and you go monthly, and by getting that injection, it causes the edema to dissipate temporarily, but it's a symptom approach. So what Jeffrey did is he took people with wet, dry, drusen, macular degeneration, and he had them look at red light every day, 5 minutes in the morning for 12 weeks. I'll answer in a second. And in 12 weeks, their ability to read the eye chart, the letters smaller by 22%. They improve their ability to read the eye chart just by looking at this red light, because it's stimulating the good energy in the cells of the macula. So I looked at that study, and I've made up red glasses, and I'll leave them out. You can try them. And I've been using this with my patients, and it works quite well. Now, there may be some other things you need to do. And by the way, AREDS vitamins are not very good. I wouldn't use them. I think there's much better things out there. And I'll talk about specific things, like for the macula. Did you know that saffron, curcumin are really good for macular degeneration? And I'll talk about that a little later. And there's certain other nutrients that are not really discussed, but they're in the literature, they're in the research, that work really well with macular problems. So you have a question, Chantal.
My question was, is it far infrared, near infrared?
Okay.
Red light?
Yeah. So the red light is 670 nanometers. Okay. So it's a visible spectrum of red light. Now for me, I get a little nervous when I'm doing non-visible light into the eyes, like near infrared, even though on the body they are using both the red and the near infrared on body parts. And the near infrared penetrates more deeply, but I am not convinced that I want to include that. I just want to use the visible light, and I want a person to be able to control the amount of brightness and how long they do it. Because a lot of people have light sensitivity. Anybody have light sensitivity? Yeah, glare. So one needs to be very careful about the light source they're using. So they have these red light boxes. They tell you to cover your eyes because they're way too bright. The LED lights are way too bright. But in the red glasses, you can control the amount of brightness in how you're looking. You could do it indoors, you could do it outdoors. So I'm a little nervous about using non-visible light into the eyes, so that's why I don't include it. But the nanometer, the red measurement is 670, and that's what these red glasses are. So I'm going to bring them out, and you can try them. You can see how you feel with them. It's not instant, and it may not be the total answer, but you're definitely going to be getting rejuvenation into your eyes by doing that.
How long do you use them for?
Well, I like to use them like 10 minutes a day in the morning for about 3 months. But some people like to use them indefinitely. So the thing is that you don't want to do something with them. You want to receive, it's like a meditation, basically. And it's not instant. It's not like, oh, I'm going to wear them for 10 minutes and then I'm going to see better. That's not how this works. When you're working with color therapy or light therapy, what you're doing is you're re-stimulating the photoreceptors in the retina. So the photoreceptors, that captures the light and it turns it into an electrical impulse that goes back to the brain. That's what vision is. And so in this particular process, what you're doing with light therapy is you're re-stimulating the retina cells that have been desensitized to light. Think about that. When we have a vision problem, what happens is the retina shuts down. And when it shuts down, we don't see as well at night, or we get more tired when we read, or our focus is not as good. And so what the light therapy does is it re-stimulates, it turns on the retina that's been shut off. And as we age, that's what happens. And then when we use our digital screens, that also was what causes it. So what's your experience with the red? How does it feel?
I guess I don't feel it. Everything looks red.
Everything looks red, like marsh.
I like it because the glare, though.
It does reduce the glare, yeah.
After you do it, like for 10 minutes a day for 3 months, can you wear them like inside and outside all the time or not?
It's probably better not to wear them all the time because you want to have that, it's like a treatment, and your body needs to kind of metabolize, like digest. It would be like, should I eat broccoli 24/7? No. So it's, it's the same kind of thing. Okay. Yeah.
Somebody recently told me that when using a computer,
Mm-hmm.
to put something red behind the screen,
Uh-huh.
that helps with
Yeah.
updating the-
So you're going to hear all kinds of things like that on the internet, and it's like another myth buster. It's like the thing about computers that you have to watch for is the blue light. So do you know about blue light? Do you know about blue light? Okay. So blue light that comes off a screen can eventually cause cataracts and macular degeneration. Okay, so your phone, your computer, your laptop has blue light that comes off of it that dries your eyes out and can damage your eye tissue. Now, if you've had cataract surgery, the lenses they put in don't block the blue light. That's why a lot of people get macular degeneration after they've had cataract surgery, because they weren't told that the intraocular lens that they're putting in, there's no protection on the blue light. The French government, which is kind of like our FDA, did a huge paper on the damaging effects of blue light on the body. Now, we don't hear about it in the US very much. I mean, there are pockets of people talking about it, but blue light's like a toxin. And when you expose yourself to a lot of screen time, number one, it messes up your pineal gland. It shuts off the melatonin, so you can't sleep. Second of all, it's drying you out, more dry-eyed than ever, inflammation. And then third, it creates eye damage if you expose yourself. Yeah.
Does screen time include TVs?
Yes. TVs, LED lights. It all has blue light. LED lights has blue. Yeah. They don't tell you these things. It,
Free LED light bulbs.
now they give you free. If you want to get light bulbs, get the OTT light, which is a full spectrum light. OTT, O-T-T.
Everybody has LED lights now.
You can't buy a regular light bulb.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to if you look up John Ott, O-T-T, O-T-T, that's full spectrum lighting, and they will have lots of different fixtures. I'll tell you about an experiment I did when I used to have my office. So we had a really big office, and we had a front where we had processed insurance, and I had like 5 employees in that little area. And I went in on a weekend, and I took out the fluorescent lights, and I put in full spectrum for fluorescent lights, but I didn't tell my staff. And within a few days, the tone of that front office went from conflict and anger to peace and calming. Just because I changed the fixtures to full spectrum. So artificial light is like artificial food, like eating McDonald's. And John Ott, if you look him up, he coined a term called malillumination. Malillumination, like malnutrition. So when you're in here like this all day with these fluorescent lights, and you don't go outside, your immune system doesn't work as well. You have higher risk of dental problems. You have ADD and ADHD and other things. And when I told my staff after 2 weeks, they were like, that's why we feel more relaxed. Because it's, you're collecting money, you're doing insurance. It was a war zone. And just by changing those fixtures, I proved that full spectrum lighting changes our mood, increases our serotonin and our dopamine. Makes you think, right? So what do you do to protect yourself from blue light? There's a couple of things. Number one, there's a company that I like, and I have no financial interest with them, called OcuShield. OcuShield.
What is it? OCU?
OcuShield. And depending on what your digital device is, you can get a screen over it. It's not red, but it protects you from the blue light. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is get yourself a pair of computer glasses that have blue protection in it. In my practice, I've developed what we call smart blue filters. And I put the blue filter on the back of the lens, and you can't even tell that it's there, but it reduces the glare and it blocks a certain percentage of the blue light. So you can get that made in your prescription. Yeah.
And I got my glasses from, I don't know, Super Walmart or something, and I'm a little bit skeptical. If they said, well, I opted for blue light protection, but I'm just wondering,
You know, it's why I've kept my lab for 30 years. Because I have people buy a frame and then I know my lab will put in what they're supposed to. So, you know, the optical industry, it's a little shaky. You know, it's a big industry that, you know, yes. No, it's not yellow. No, no. So, no, they don't. Right, it's a marketing thing. It's a marketing thing. The people in the know will say it's total BS. It's a marketing thing. Oh, you get your daytime blue blockers and you get your night. No, you don't have to do that.
What do you think of flux?
I think it's okay. I think OcuShield is better than the Flux app, but it's something. And then the third thing is you need to protect your macula. So there are three main ingredients: lutein, zeaxanthin, and astaxanthin. I'll see if I brought some. I've made up a special blue blocking vitamin, which is really good. And but those are the three things you want to get: lutein, zeaxanthin, and astaxanthin.
Can you spell the second and third?
The second one is spelled Z as in zebra, EAXANTHIN.
And what about the third one?
ASTAXANTHIN.
What's the difference between those two?
The astaxanthin is from a marine carotenoid, so it's from seafood.
Oh,
Okay, and I brought some astaxanthin today, so you can. Again, I'm going to just give you my wholesale price because I want you guys to start taking it. Done? Everybody try it?
Their recommended dose that
Yeah, so lutein is 16 milligrams. All right, there's one more thing I want to say and then we'll take a break. And I'm sorry to say that I'm going to say this to you, and it's probably going to depress the hell out of you. In fact, I know it's going to depress the hell out of you. Okay. And you're already depressed, right? Because now you're knowing. I mean, there's so many things you can do. It's just, okay. All right, let me explain it this way. When you wear a progressive lens, you are creating suicide in your eyes. Suicide. And the reason is the only part of the lens that's usable is a tiny thread in the middle. And it's a compartment. And guess what part of the retina you're having to use with your progressives? Your Exactly. So I want to ask you a question. Who recommended you get progressive lenses based on your macular diagnosis? Who was the genius that did that? Because what he did is he made your macular degeneration worse, because that's the only part of your eye you are able to use. Who would recommend something like that? That's stupid. They're actually putting you more into your weak area. You should never be in a progressive lens with macular issues because it's making the macula even more stressed. It's the only part of the eye you're using. You in the back?
I had progressive lenses years before.
Yeah, and it probably accelerated the macular weakness.
And they haven't talked to me about changing them.
Of course not. So there's something called how you use your eyes. We call it functional. There's structure. So you go to the exam and they look at the structure of the eye, but they're not looking at how using your eyes affects the structure. Here's an example. If I take my movement and I do this, okay, I'm moving my arm, and I just do this all the time, eventually my shoulder is going to wear out. I'll do this for 30 years, and then I'll need a shoulder replacement. Instead, having somebody say, well, what if you do this, or, you know, do this, or actually use the other, that's functional. So the way you use something is going to change the anatomy of it. So if you have macular degeneration and you're using a progressive lens, game over.
So do you get a trifocal?
No, you don't want to get anything where you are only using your macula.
So what do you do?
What do you do? Here's the metaphor. Okay, there's a window over there. Okay, there's a big window over there. And I'm going to cover the whole window except the little hole. Try to see what's out the window. That's what you've been doing, and you've been doing, and you've been doing, and whoever else is the progressive lens. So the whole window is blocked except a little hole.
So they carry around 3 different pairs of glasses?
Okay, so what you have to do is you have to look at your lifestyle. You have to look at, all right, I'm going to be driving. By the way, if you drive with your progressive lens, the only part of the lens you can use is the top fourth. How dangerous is that? If there's a truck over here, you got to like turn your whole head. So here's the concept. The bigger the window you look through, the more of your eye you're using. The macula makes up 1% of the real estate of your eye. 1%. And that's what you're using. Now you asked me, should you get 3 pairs of glasses? Well, this isn't black and white, okay? But if you're trying to read a book or you work on a computer, you're looking through a hole. You're not seeing the hole, you're just looking through a hole and try to work on the computer or read. So at that place where there's a lot of visual intensity, you use a bigger lens, use a single vision lens. Now for you, you're not driving anymore.
Oh, no.
So whether you need a distance prescription or not, probably not, maybe, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, if you try to walk in those, your balance is going to be way off because the middle part of the lens focuses here and the bottom part focuses here. So when you look down at the ground, it's different distances. It's going to be blurry. You're going to fall over and you're going to say, wow, my balance is getting worse. Well, it's getting worse because you're trying to look through these little holes that some person recommended, and they're not even looking at you. They're not even understanding how you see. That's why I said it's gonna shock the hell out of you when I tell you that. Progressive lens, progressive lens, progressive lens.
So I'm going to the oculist, it just happens next week.
Yeah.
When I ask for it.
You better not go. Because they're gonna charge you, $10,000 for a pair of glasses that you're not gonna use. If you don't understand that function changes structure, then why go?
So just don't wear
Well,
glasses.
no. See, again, your thinking is very black and white. You got to get out of that. That's not the answer. That's a typical, that's what the eye doctors train you to do. We'll have to see. I don't know for you. Or maybe you'll be one of the people I work on. But clearly, the progressive lenses are making things a lot worse.
Do the transitional lenses make the macular degeneration
Yeah.
worse? Because I used to have
Yeah.
them, and I can't wear them anymore.
Yeah.
Because they made it worse.
Yeah,
Even-
all of those bells and whistles that they sell you are making your eyes worse. And they also say, if you don't wear your glasses, your eyes are going to get worse. It's just the opposite, right? Even though they'll tell you, oh, you got to wear your glasses all the time. One of the best vision improvement practices, and I want you do a disclaimer here, in a non-demanding, non-threatening situation, start taking your glasses off and just notice what you see and how you feel. And some people don't feel anything because they're completely disassociated from their body. But I'm telling you, they're not helping you. Yeah.
Along the same lines. So this is really helping me. So, the eye doctor asked me more than once, okay, do you want glasses that help you drive or read?
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, I need to be able to drive so that I'm safe. So I said driving.
Okay.
But the thing is, I've had so much trouble reading, and I'm always futzing with the angle.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe because my nose bridge is lower or something, and I'm not hitting some angle or something. And it's in the book here, but I start reading, and like within 5 minutes, I fall asleep. And then, so it's kind of bad news, but also it's good news because it's not necessarily my eyes, but what I'm using.
Okay. Here's the answer. And this is for everybody. When you go for an eye exam and you're sitting in the room and you're 20 feet away, that lens, if you try to read with that lens, it's going to make your eyes progressively more nearsighted. And you're going to need that's why you have to go back every year to get stronger glasses. So I teach a 6-week online course on myopia reduction. And I experienced my nearsightedness going away. So I know what I'm talking about because I went through it. One of the first steps in the course and with my patients is we have them get 2 pairs of glasses. One for distance, and then we get about 1 to 1.5 diopters lower prescription. That's a computer prescription or a reading prescription. So right off the bat, because your myopia is so high, your clarity is like here, somewhere with your print, So it's too close. You can't hold a book that close or get that close to the computer. But if you get like a 1 or 150 less, lower, and you start using that for computer and reading, it does 2 things. First of all, it's going to feel so much more relaxing than your distance glasses. You will feel more relaxed. The stronger the lens, the tighter it makes your muscles, and the more tunneled it makes you. So that's great for your brain and your nervous system to have that experience that, wow, I can see really well here, and my eyes are much more relaxed than the distance prescription. And trying to change the angle and all that is hogwash. That's what are you doing there? You're trying something, but you're overcorrected. You're wearing something way too strong. And the other thing that it's going to do is if you start wearing it indoors in a period of about 3 months, your eyes are going to flex into that, and that will become your distance prescription. And that's how you can start bringing it down. Now, did they tell you that? Of course not. And the reason they don't tell you that, because it's all based on the difference between eyesight exam and a vision exam. So let me give you the distinction. Eyesight, I can read the chart. And I'm going to prescribe glasses or contacts based on reading the chart. That has very little to do with your brain. It's just eyesight, optics, static. Vision is how the eyes and the brain work together. How well did the 2 eyes work together? What's your peripheral vision like? What's your memory like? What's your balance like? That's vision. That's the test they should be doing. But what they're doing is eyesight, and they're looking for eye disease. That's the main goal. I mean, I was trained in that. I went to the Pennsylvania College of Optometry. And that school was all about looking for disease. we're going to spend our whole 4 years looking for disease. You know the population that has eye disease, 5%, 10%? So they're ignoring that 90% around vision. And yet 50% of seeing is in the brain. University of Rochester proved that. They did a study. So all of you folks, you're telling me all about your eyesight, the structure of you're not even telling me about your vision. I mean, I can go through the whole list here. And every diagnosis that you have is really just a symptom of malnutrition in the eyes. Or the function is creating a structural defect that if you changed how you're using your eyes, the structure might get better. So you can take your ARIDs all day, but if you don't change the function, it doesn't matter because you're wearing out the structure, whether it's macular degeneration, floaters, diabetic retinopathy. I mean, they're all symptoms of your eyes are not getting the proper nutrients or the proper usage. What's the conversation about, what have you heard about the sun and your eyes? Don't go outside, don't look, wear sunglasses all the time. Do you know that some of the latest research says that it's very important that you get morning sunlight every day? That balances your circadian rhythm, that helps your mood, and it can even reduce your nearsightedness. They found this in kids. But you're told, avoid the sun. Just as one of many myths that you're now finding out, progressive lenses, maybe they're not so good for me. If you want to wear progressive lenses, you wear them in certain instances like, okay, I'm driving to the store, I need to be able to see the label, write the check, all right, I'll wear it for that, if I'm near and far, okay? But I'm not going to wear them all the time. I'm not going to wear them when I'm walking. I'm not going to wear them when I'm working on the computer or reading. Because again, I'm looking through the hole instead of seeing the hole. I'm looking through a hole, H-O-L-E. That's what you're doing to your eye. Why would you want to do that? Who told you that? And if they told you that, why would you bother going back to them? Because they're completely clueless. And I bet you paid a pretty dollar for that progressive lens. They're super expensive. Yeah.
Actually, agreeing with what you're saying, before I was diagnosed with wet macular degeneration, I knew I had dry eye already, but I still felt like I was having problems reading the computer screen.
Yeah.
With my progressives, and I went to see at the same place, Eye Associates, this optometrist, because I couldn't get in to see my retinologist.
Yeah.
He said, try reading your computer with no glasses.
Okay.
And try reading books with just regular reading glasses and set aside and it was better.
It was better. Okay. There you go. Yeah, I'm not.
Then there was no sign of wet AMD, but 3 months later, it came up.
All right, last point. After the break, I'm going to go into some things that you can start doing. So we've got some people here with wet AMD. We've got the blood sugar, and with the glasses coming back, we've got myopia. I'm going to go through the list, and I'm going to give you some prescriptions that maybe you can think about doing that gets you out of this rut that you're in, this hole that you're in. But we should probably take a break. It's been 90 minutes, and I know it's really riveting and fascinating. So we'll make sure you get everything you need by the end of the day, but good to stretch your legs and whatever. Yes, Elaine.
Can I give an unsolicited testimonial?
Yeah, go ahead.
Prescribed progressive because I felt like I was going blind, and I had done vision therapy, but this was like, I don't know, decades later. So I didn't have any time, so I got the progressives and I fell on the street in Brooklyn. And I thought, I knew better, I couldn't see. Sam recommended somebody in Brooklyn who did vision better. So anyways, didn't need glasses. Also, the different amounts of glasses you get in the beginning, I now hardly use any of them. And I had 3 different pairs of glasses. One for night driving, one for reading, one for computer work, and I hardly use them. So I'm just saying it actually works.
Yeah.
I can tell you it works, but I've actually done it.
When I started doing social media in 2016, you know, I didn't have a following, but now doing this, you know, 8 years, there's a lot of people that are going, "Wait," just like you, what you're saying. I would do a video on progressive lenses and they'd go, "Oh my God." And now people are, this room should be filled. Nobody there, where are people's head? They just keep, you know, I've been to eye associates when they do the injections. You know, it's like an assembly line. You know, you get Medicare pays for it, and it's, you don't know anybody. And a few people escape the asylum and come and see me. But, you know, for the most part, you know, one of the best ways to reduce AMD, wet AMD, is to stop eating dairy. Dairy creates mucus, and it creates more fluid. I had a dairy farmer who had wet AMD. I said, stop it. He was getting injections for 4 years. Within 3 months, no more injections. He's seeing really well. He was a dairy farmer up in Taos. So I'm going to give you tips like that. But if you're suffering wet AMD, stop eating dairy, sugar, wheat, and gluten. And I'll look at your irises this afternoon and see what your constitution is, and that will confirm that. But if you've macular degeneration, that's, you know, and especially if you have wet.
What does the wet mean?
It means that you've got fluid built up behind the macula, which is where you get your detail. So it's distorted, but it's more serious because there's fluid back there, and there's also a blood sugar issue going on as well. Yeah. Well, you can easily remedy these things. This is not hard to do.
It would be very hard for me to give those 4 things up.
Well, you want to get if you want to get your eyesight back, do an experiment for 2 weeks and prove it.
2 weeks, I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, what did your friend over here? She got off sugar. Her prescription went in half. Did you hear what she said?
Well, I can't really hear.
Well, I'm repeating that.
I'm afraid the photo.
Or maybe at break you should get close to her and listen to what she's saying. I mean, you're here, you want to improve, right? Let her talk to you about the diet and what happened. I'm serious. I'm not fooling around here. Okay, we're going to take a break, and we got.
I'd like to know about the online course.
Yeah, we can talk about that. We'll talk about the online stuff.